We got to stop talking.
And to my people, to my black people, this is not our fight. Stay out of it. It's not our fight. They said violence had no place in politics. They weren't saying that during the civil rights, back when they was assassinating us then. It didn't apply then. Let it fly now. It's not our fight. Let the white people handle it.
Black people, at this point, it's just time to move in silence. Whatever we do from now on, whatever we do to build our community, from now on, we cannot be putting it on social media. We can't be putting our ideas on social media because the people that's higher up are going to try to have the upper hand on us. But when you don't put your business on social media and we keep it amongst ourselves and we move in silence, it scares a person. They don't know how to deal with someone who moves in silence. That's the problem with us as black people. We talk too goddamn much and we put our stuff out there. And that's why we can't never have nothing, because people have already beat us to the punch. Shut up. Be silent. Speak among each other from now on.
A lot of us don't get this, Charlamagne. Do you realize you're the only people in world history who are not even considered people? We had to fight to prove we were human beings before we could fight for freedom. People leave that step out. It wasn't a fight for freedom. It was a fight for humanity, then a fight for freedom, then a fight for equality, and now we at stage 4, a fight for survival. You're the only people who was not allowed to learn by law. You're the only people who are dehumanized by law, okay? And you are the only people who the world benefited from your enslavement and did nothing, absolutely nothing about it, but the entire world benefited from you. So black people don't owe no explanations to nobody. They owe them to us. But before they can be external reparations, there has to be internal reparations, which is what I think y'all hitting at. Yes, we know white America owes us, but you'll never get from the outside until you do from the inside first.
Being black in America means constantly having your contributions, worth, and place in society questioned, even if you've been the foundation of this nation's culture, development, and growth since its inception. Between the slave labor that granted America its status as the richest nation in the world, tilling the land to grow said cash crops, to building the White House and railroads, without black Americans, there is no America. Our contributions don't stop there. You use something invented by a black person almost every single day. Your computer, your phone calls, refrigerated food, eyesight, all things or fields invented or pioneered by black people. And their names are often not known by design to push the myth that all American things were created by the whiteness this country wants to exude, which is just not true, because America has never been a white country. You sit and think about the history of whiteness in America. It's the theme of theft and lying to fit the narrative they needed to justify the genocide of the natives and the enslavement of Africans, claiming that the indigenous populations not being that great of number or developing the land when the natives from Canada down to Argentina had massive earthworks, advanced knowledge of the solar systems, medicine, hygiene, and agriculture with massive cities and societies. The attempted erasure of black Americans being simply American when we are the foundational Americans in this country and have been here and done more for this nation than the majority of the white descendants of those of you who came through Ellis Island. But I want to talk about the innovations that existed within the community and how, due to systemic oppression, that innovation being stolen and the names forgotten. Before the Civil War, enslaved people couldn't hold patents. They weren't recognized as legal persons, but they still were inventing. One of the earlier documented inventions came from a man named Ned, who created a more efficient cotton scraper. To no shock, his enslaver tried to steal the idea and the patent as his own. The patent office rejected it, so the invention just sat there unprotected and exploitable. The system wasn't designed to credit black genius, just to erase it if white people could not profit from it. And even as black people gained incremental rights in America, the systemic theft of black genius continued in just a different format. Granville Woods held over 50 patents in the late 1800s. They called him the Black Edison. Thomas Edison tried to claim credit for one of his inventions in court. He lost twice. And history still gave Edison the credit. Lewis Latimer perfected the carbon filament that made Edison's light bulb actually work at scale. Without Latimer, there's no mass-produced light bulb. He worked in Edison's lab. He did the essential work. John Matzlinger invented the shoe lasting machine in 1883, mechanized a process that bottlenecked the entire shoe industry, cut production costs in half. He died young and nearly broke. A corporation bought his patent and made fortunes off of it. That's the pattern. Invent it, get pushed out, and watch someone else, usually white, make the profit.
Every time a black man speaks the truth, he's called angry. Every time he defends himself, he's labeled dangerous. The angry black man stereotype is a weapon. It doesn't matter if we raise our voice, calmly explain ourselves, it gets used to silence us. It's how society avoids listening. If they call us angry, they don't have to hear the pain, the truth, or the reality we're naming, but there's this thing. Silence has never set anyone free. We're not angry. We're human. We feel, we protect, we love. But we're tired of being boxed into a label that was never ours from the beginning. Being black and speaking truth should not be criminalized. Follow if you believe black men deserve to be heard and not silenced.
Yeah, so family, there comes a moment in history where words lose their power, where speaking, explaining, protesting, educating all begin to feel like echoes bouncing off walls that were never built to listen in the first place. And for many black Americans today, family, that moment doesn't feel like it's coming. It feels like it has already arrived. Because how many times can you explain your pain before it becomes performance? How many times can you break down injustice, statistics, lived experiences, generational trauma, only to be met with denial, with distraction, or even worse, silence? And at some point, family, you begin to realize that the issue was never that people didn't understand, it's that they didn't want to. And that's the uncomfortable truth that's sitting heavy right now, family. Black Americans have said everything that needs to be said. The speeches have been made. The marches have happened. The hashtags trended. The documentaries exposed everything. And so the receipts are endless. There is no lack of information. There is no confusion about what's happening. So if nothing is changing at the level it should, then what exactly are we still talking about, family? And from an African perspective, watching this unfold is deeply unsettling because also we can see that this is painfully clear because distance gives you a different kind of vision. You begin to see patterns that people inside the system are too emotionally and mentally exhausted to even process anymore. You see how the circle keeps repeating itself. Outrage, conversation, temporary attention, then silence again. And then it starts over, almost like the system itself feeds off its taking, as long as it never leads to real structural change. And this is where the shift is happening, family. Slowly but surely, more Black Americans are realizing that constant explanation is not power. In fact, sometimes it becomes a trap because while you're busy explaining your humanity, someone else is busy maintaining a system that never required the explanation to begin with. And think about it, family. Even every major issue we see, policing, economic inequality, representation, systemic bias, has already been dissected 1,000 times over. Experts have spoken, communities have spoken, victims have spoken, allies have spoken. So if all the talking hasn't produced the level of change that matches the level of pain, family, then maybe the strategy itself needs to change. And that doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean silence in the sense of defeat. It means a different kind of silence, a strategic one, a silence that shifts energy away from convincing and redirects it, and it really redirects it towards building, towards organizing, towards protecting, and even creating alternatives. Because history has shown us something very important, family. Real power is rarely negotiated through endless explanation. It's built through action. It's built through unity and even control over resources. And what's happening now feels like a turning point, a quiet realization spreading across communities. We have said enough, and when people reach that point, family, things change, not loudly at first, but deeply. Because when talking stops, focus begins, and when focus begins, movements evolve. But let's also be honest, family, this moment is heavy because there is grief in realizing that your voice wasn't valued the way it should have been. There's frustration in knowing that your clarity was met with resistance, and there's anger in understanding that silence might now be more effective active than speech ever was. And that is not easy thing to accept. From where I stand as an African observer, this isn't just an American story. It's global reflection of how power responds to truth. And it forces a bigger question. If speaking truth isn't enough to create change, then what is? Maybe the answer isn't louder voices. Maybe it's different moves. Maybe it's choosing where your energy goes instead of constantly pouring it into spaces that have already shown you they're not listening. Because at the end of the day, family, the most dangerous shift is not when people start shouting. It's when they stop explaining altogether. That's when you know something deeper is happening. And right now, family, that's exactly where we are.